Let me tell you what happened to a first responder with severe shoulder pain when I used Neuro Reset to help him. And during 9/11, I was in New York City, and we were all dazed and trying to figure out what to do to help. I was luckily assigned to the recovery room for first responders. I was working with a first responder with severe shoulder pain, which he got while he was clearing concrete blocks. His pain level was at 8 on a scale from 0 to 10, and he could barely lift his arm. With Neuro Reset, I was able to quickly evaluate which muscles were involved. Among them were pectoralis sternal, pectoralis clavicular, anterior serratus, and a few others. The principle of Neuro Reset is that energy flow to muscles is interrupted due to stress or trauma, and using touch points on the body, one can quickly restore the energy flow and the muscles become stronger. So with manual muscle testing, I was able to evaluate those muscles were underperforming, and then Neuro Reset restored the energy flow to those muscles. So after about 25 minutes, all the muscles tested strong, or what we call switched on. Switched on because the energy now is flowing. It's kind of like electricity that switches on and off. So when the muscles are switched on, that means the energy supply is working, and then the muscle tests strong with manual muscle testing. And when they are switched off, when the energy is switched off, even when muscle fibers are strong, the energy supply is interrupted, so the muscles test weak with a manual muscle response testing. After 25 minutes, he was relaxed enough, almost pain-free. His pain level went down to 2, and he was able to lift his arm, and he was relaxed enough to drift off to sleep. The whole procedure took about 25 minutes. This case is much more cheerful. It's about a client who was able to avoid knee surgery. A client who we'll call Michael, who hasn't seen me in a few years, came in with a knee pain that was severe enough that he was considering having a knee replacement surgery. And as a last resort, before the surgery, he came to see me to see if I can help him. With manual muscle testing, we were able to evaluate which muscles were involved. And there were many muscles, of course, including quadriceps, hamstrings, sartorius, and a number of other muscles. And using the Neuro Reset reflex points on the body, we were able to restore full function within an hour. And Michael left pain-free, walking normally. And I haven't heard from him for a while. 2 years later, he called me that his knee was still fine, and he referred a friend of his who was afraid to have the same procedure. This story is about a woman who recovered from a serious surfing accident. This woman, who we'll call Joan, was an avid surfer and incidentally also a NICU nurse. One day, when she was on the waves together with a bunch of other surfers, one of them lost control of his board. The board went flying and hit her square in the face, causing severe damage. So Joan was taken to the hospital for triage and scheduled for facial reconstruction surgery a few weeks later. She came to see me because she was very nervous before the surgery, and she said she was afraid she would end up being in pain, and as she said, her face would be distorted. We used manual muscle testing to evaluate which muscles were involved, switched on or switched off. Some muscles are switched off due to interruption of the energy supply, and other muscles sometimes take over and become too switched on, and that interferes with the work of other muscles. So we were able to evaluate many muscles on the face, head, and neck. That, of course, included neck flexors and also temporalis, masseter, and several other muscles, some of which were too strong and some of them were too weak. So the Neuro Reset equalized all the muscle functions. So all the muscles eventually functioned as they should. After about an hour, all the muscles were working. Joan was much calmer, and she sent me this testimonial later. She wrote, "I just had my surgery this morning, and it was even accomplished in 45 minutes instead of an hour. My pain and swelling are much less than expected, and I do not feel distorted. This is thanks to your work. I was excited for the surgery and not nervous, and my heartbeat was nice and slow. Thank you again." So John was very happy. It took about an hour to equalize all these muscles, to calm her down, and to prepare her for a successful surgery. One day, as I was walking down a street in my hometown, New York City, I noticed a small group of people gathered around someone who was lying on the sidewalk. Apparently, there had been an accident, and the person on the sidewalk was being helped by people around, but there was one woman standing by who was crying hysterically, and nobody was paying attention to her. So I came over and asked her if she wanted to be helped. Through her sobs, she said that she wanted to be helped and she was very stressed and didn't know what to do. She didn't want to be touched, but luckily there is a technique in Neuro Reset that works even without touching. So using this technique for in the first few minutes, the woman stopped crying. And after about 10 minutes, she was calm enough to go home. So she did go home. I never saw her again. And I was really happy that I had a tool in my hands to help someone who needed help, even though it was completely accidental. This story is about a man who fell off a ladder. One day, a man who was referred to me came into my office, and he looked quite healthy, except he was moving very stiffly. He explained that the reason for that was that he had been doing repairs on his country house and fell off a ladder, and of course, hurt himself. So he had pain in his spine and in several joints. He didn't want to have an MRI or an X-ray. He just wanted to know if I could help him. As in previous examples, Neuro Reset quickly identified underperforming muscles and overperforming muscles. The overperforming muscles are the ones that are too tight and they are switching off the other muscles when you test them in sequence. So it creates additional imbalances. With Neuro Reset, we were able to restore the proper function to all the muscles, spinal muscles, neck flexors, latissimus dorsi in abdominals, and a number of other muscles as well. It took about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and he was able to move normally. So his fluidity of movement was restored, and he felt almost pain-free, and I never saw him again. But the person who referred him told me that he was fine and didn't have any other procedures. Now, there are some reasons why nurses may hesitate to use Neuro Reset. For example, they need to follow strict procedures and protocols. In my next video, we will explore how to move through that obstacle and many others so we can finally feel confident enough even when meds are not available. So we will talk about that in my next video on the screen. Click to watch now.